The following contains references to death, psychoactive substances, cancer, and off-grid living. Listener discretion is advised. Mycelium. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Henry David Thoreau. He is alone here, on a peaceful, calming piece of land he calls the Garden of Life. The Garden of Life sits on a beautifully wooded 50-acre lot with mountain views and running streams, overlooking Wink's Pond up in the North Maine woods. There is not another soul in any direction for 32 miles. In the Garden of Life sits a 750-square-foot cabin with a loft, front porch, solar power, wood stove, fireplace, spring water, outdoor privy, and all the solitude anyone could ask for. He cleared the land, built the cabin, hewed the logs, laid the stones for the fireplace, put up the solar array, ran the water from the spring, and in fact, did all the work himself. By hand, years ago.
Everything I need are in these woods.
He tells himself. He hunts, fishes, forages, keeps bees, knits, sews, plows, grows all his own vegetables, does whatever is needed to maintain this free-spirited, independent lifestyle. It wasn't always this way. Once Ronald lived, shall we say, a more conventional life. He was married, had a son, lived in the suburbs outside of New York City, worked in the insurance industry in Manhattan, kissed asses, and clawed his way to the top of his company.
Congratulations, Ronald.
As in all things in life, all must pass. Everything dies eventually. Ronald's wife, Helen, was no exception. She became very ill and passed away. His only son, Doug, grew up, started his own life, and drifted away from Ronald. One day, Ronald had enough of it all. He realized he was just chasing money to buy things he didn't really need.
It is better to live a short life filled with happiness than a long life filled with struggle and worry.
With that, he left the rat race, quit his job, sold the house, pulled up stakes, and headed north, taking only what he needed, and never looked back.
A man with no tethers is the freest man.
Another thing Ronald liked to say to himself during his many moments of self-thought.
Soil on your skin, sun on your back, keeps you alive.
Yet another Ron saying. The actual garden in the Garden of Life had all of Ron's favorites. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, watermelon, string beans, medicinal botanicals, and even eggplant. Ron could have opened Ron's Farmer's Market if there was anyone around to sell to. One day in early May, Ron was in the garden, planting potatoes in a new section that he had recently cleared. His metal spade hit a rock that made quite an unusual sound. He dug up the rock. It was really heavy for the size of it. It looked like it had melted and cooled off at some point. He tapped it again to see if he could reproduce the sound that it had made before. The rock emitted a smoke-like substance, like those puffer mushrooms you step on and smoke comes out.
Whoa, that smells foul. Ugh.
Ron said to himself. He planted the potatoes and brought the rock into the cabin, as it looked really cool. That night, he sat by the fire in his homemade rocking chair and gazed at the rock by candle and firelight. He pulled a book on geology from his bookshelf. He didn't have internet or TV, but he had a lot of books. He scoured the book, trying to determine what kind of rock he had stumbled across. He didn't find any rocks that resembled his find. But then he remembered that he did see a rock like this before. It was in one of his old newspapers that he often reread when things really slowed down in the winter months. Yes, here it was in the Ashland Gazette from May 1957. It read, Mr. Scott Rickens of Caribou had an object go through his roof and through 2 floors of his house, ending up in a hole smoking in the basement. Mr. Rickens did not know what the object was, but after further investigation from authorities and the University of Maine, the object was determined to be not from the Earth, but from outer space. A meteorite.
Wow. Maybe I should call my garden the Space Garden.
Ron chuckled to himself. He placed the space rock on the mantle for decoration. Spring turned into summer, and summer into fall. Ron was happy and in tune with the seasons. As the days and months rolled by, Ron did more and more trekking through the woods, outside the Garden of Life. He started with short loops ending up back at the Garden of Life after an hour or so. Soon, he was gone half the day, then the whole day, coming back as the sun was setting. He was paying less and less attention to the Garden of Life and was spending pretty much all of his time in the deep woods. He would hike for a while, find a nice spot, and lay there listening to the woods, the birds, insects, smelling the fauna and feeling the ground beneath him. He would lay there for hours and hours, taking it all in. He always returned home at the end of the day, but the end of the day became later and later. He would walk back in the pitch black of the forest, and yet instinctively know where he was. One summer day, he trekked all day, deeper and deeper into the dark woods, blazing his own trail, drinking from springs, eating wild berries, and foraging. After walking for all of that hot day, he came upon a tree-covered shady dell with an inviting, cool, mossy bed. He laid down on the inviting moss. Rain began to fall onto his outstretched body, the musky woodland smells, the quiet, the beautiful rain. The beautiful rain. The breeze in the trees. The trickle of a small spring. The beautiful rain. The connection he felt at that moment with nature and his surroundings was the most overwhelming, beautiful experience he had ever felt in his entire life. He closed his eyes. Leaves fell upon him. Ronald fell into a sleep for the ages.
I can see the entire North Main woods from up here in the clouds. Am I in heaven? I can see underground. Am I in hell? I can see inside of trees and hear what they're saying. I can feel the river's spirit. My eyes are lakes, my fingers vines, my arms trees, my legs boulders, my soul earth.
Ronald was having a dream like no other. A true out-of-body experience his mind could not comprehend. Was it a dream? It felt so real. He felt so connected. Ron tries to get up and move, but he cannot feel his body. He can feel the forest. He can see everything around him in his mind. He now looks down at himself through his mind's eye. He realizes that he has been in this dell a very, very long time. The trees have all changed. It is now fall. Of what year, he is not sure. As his mind's eye moves in closer to himself, he is shocked to see that he has truly become part of the forest. He has no body. His head is the only thing protruding out of the ground that he recognizes, and that is half buried in the ground. There are mushrooms growing out all around him. There are spider webs, vines entangled in his hair. There are worms coming out of his mouth, moss covering his forehead. His head has become a skull, barely sticking out of its moss surroundings. He looks down closer from his mind's eye into his skull's eyes sockets, then into his own soul. He sees everything on, in, below, and above the earth, as if looking through a fish-eye lens. It's like if you put VR goggles on and look in any direction and see the entire world close and far away at the same time. He closes his mind's eye. The beautiful rain comes down upon him again. The darkness of night blankets his thoughts. He is at peace with the forest, the earth, himself. Yes, Ron has truly become part of the earth. In fact, he doesn't realize it, but he has become part of the Mycelium network. He is connected to everything on Earth through this network. Yet he is not a mushroom, moss, or fungi, is he? How can this be? The spores that were released from the 4.5 billion year old meteorite he hit upon in his garden, somehow he knew made all of this possible. He felt a strong connection to it. Now he is more mycelia than man. He no longer has any earthly wants or desires. He feels as though he is at the center of a gigantic spider web, where he is the spider. This web is not linear, but rather expands out in all directions and is endless. He can sense the smallest living organisms to the largest, even sense their thoughts and feelings, at least the ones that are capable of those.
I'm the luckiest organism alive.
With time, he realizes he is even luckier than he thought. He learns he has control over the mycelia web. One morning, the web was pulling at him, like it was asking him to do something. There had been a very long hot streak, and plants and animals were dying from dehydration in his forest. He could hear the trees creaking, the insects screaming. The birds were not singing. Yes, he could hear their pleas, but felt useless.
I wish it would just rain,
he said to himself. He felt the mycelium web inside him spring to life, and lo and behold, it started to pour. This was just the beginning of his discovery of the power he could wield. Another time, when Big Tree Logging Company moved in the northwestern part of his woods to clear-cut the forest for lumber and decimate the woods, he sent hailstorms, windstorms, and rain and mud to stop Big Tree's big machines in their tracks. One time, he even made the workers of Big Tree trip their brains out on wild hallucinogenic spores that floated on the wind and went right up their noses. Not much tree clearing was done on that day, I can tell you. Ultimately, he sent peregrine falcons into the area, and the Maine Department of Fish and Wildlife stepped in and closed down the area to any further logging attempts, as the falcons are on the endangered species list. The woods were saved. But the biggest thing he did with his power was heal. He searched the mycelium web for his son Doug and ultimately found him. Unfortunately, Doug was suffering and dying from throat cancer in Boston General Hospital. Through his web, and with a healing cocktail of fungi from around the globe that came together because he summoned it from the mycelium, a cure was created. He sent the cure through the mycelia, floating on the air, right through the front entrance of Boston General, into the ICU, and into Doug's body. Doug's cancer immediately went into remission. The doctors never saw anything like it before. They dubbed it a miracle. His son was saved. Ron had cured cancer. Ron has been through the mycelia web all over the globe many times, of course, physically, never leaving his dell, to the top of Everest, to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and to the edge of space, where, yes, this vast mycelia network also reaches. He liked to go out to the edge of space and look out into the heavens and wonder what secrets it held. Sometimes, when he is at the edge of space, looking out, he can feel a tug on the mycelia web from another place, a place out there beyond the stratosphere. out in the cold darkness of space. It's a tug, a pull, like no other he experienced on Earth. He started to sense this odd tug more and more, and not only when his mycelia tentacles are probing the edge of space. Sometimes just lying there in his dell, listening to the earth breathe, feeling the beautiful rain. He feels it. It can be strong, but unlike the pulls he feels on Earth, he doesn't know what it is, where it is from, and what it wants. One day that all changed. The space pull has become very prominent, so much so that Ron can't hear, sense the Earth web. It keeps pulling, tugging at Ron. This was not pleasant, like the feeling he had with the Earth's web. Pulling over and over, gnawing at him like a record stuck in a bad groove. It just kept going and going over and over again.
What do you want?
He finally screams out in desperation to the web. The answer came through the web immediately. The entire web has changed color. A strange new sound is coming out of it. Ron is blinded and deafened by these changes. The mycelia is different now. It has expanded to proportions where Ron can't see the boundaries any longer. It just goes on forever and ever into blackness, into space. He can hear sounds that have a rhythm of speech, almost. It all hurts his senses. He listens intently to these sounds, trying to make them out. He screams in his mind.
I don't understand. What do you want?
The mycelia web is shaking, vibrating, pulsating. Then it suddenly stops, and there is a calm, a blackness, a silence. Out of the calm, he hears a voice from far away.
You have been chosen. You are our new caretaker, our gardener for our greenhouse on what you call Earth. We created this greenhouse so that everything in it dies eventually, and then we can harvest. We harvest death from our greenhouse. Your Earth is to satisfy our needs. You have been chosen as a caretaker, gardener, to maintain our greenhouse, your Earth. There are many, many exotic species in this greenhouse, with you humans being of particular delight to us. But you are a rather dirty and careless species, and can easily destroy yourselves in our greenhouse without guidance. You believe you evolve because of your tools, your inventions, your organization, and such. It's a dirty story that you created to justify your own dirty existence. You humans love to create fairy tales. We created a greenhouse for our own needs, and we harvest as needed. You are here because of us, and for us. You will aid us in husbandry, harvesting, and maintaining of our greenhouse. You are but one in a long line of caretakers spread out across many greenhouses in many galaxies that go back forever. Go now, caretaker, and wait our commands.
The mycelia are tentacles of another species living right under our noses?
Ronald found himself back in the dell, the beautiful rain coming down upon him again as he lied there in his darkened dell and thought.
Everything on Earth dies. Some things faster than others. Mountain ranges slower than humans.
Ron thought, but all things do die here on Earth. He remembered what he heard.
We harvest death from our greenhouse. Your Earth is to satisfy our needs.
Is the meaning of life to just be a delicacy for some other species?
The tug from the other world came soon again. this would be the first of many things he would be called to do. And it was a horrible thing. The unknowns from the space web wanted a Chinese harvest, and it was time for Ron to do what he was created to do. Rather, what he was controlled to do. He used the Earth's mycelia and created a famine in China. Crops died overnight. The fish were nowhere to be seen. A drought like one that has never been seen before set in. Livestock became ill and died. There were not enough food sources to go around. Ron also tightened the food supply around the globe. No one was able to provide aid for the Chinese. The unknowns at the other end of the space mycelium got their Chinese harvest. China was decimated. That was the first time Ronald was called upon to do the unknown's bidding. But unfortunately, there would be many more times. Ron created floods, fires, earthquakes, diseases, shootings, and of course, war. There was World War III, IV, V, and even World War VI. All of this happened over millions of years as Ron lay in his dell. In between these horrible events, when Ron was not being controlled and could use his own mind, he tried to find ways to forget and to remember what he once was. He did this by visiting his garden of life through the mycelium. After much turmoil and millions of years, all the Earth's delicacies have been harvested by the very hungry unknowns. The planet is now a vast wasteland, with only a tiny fraction of life left. We have reached a milestone, a truly grave milestone. The unknowns have seasons for the greenhouse as part of their maintenance to keep death as fresh as possible. There are 2 seasons, spring and harvest, and we did harvest already.
There will be a spring. Be prepared.
The unknowns notified Ron. Ron didn't know what to make of this until the whole world was in a total panic as it was announced that a life-ending asteroid, dubbed the Grim Reaper, was heading towards Earth. In the end, life on Earth could do nothing to stop this, and the Grim Reaper did exactly what the unknowns intended it to do. The world's greenhouse has begun again. The soil has been turned, and life begins to evolve. Ron feels life growing. He senses a rebirth, a new web. He is in a new dell now, and feels an even more beautiful rain. It is how it once was, peaceful, lush, and perfect. Again, Ron feels life growing and growing all over the greenhouse. After many millennia, he begins to hear more familiar sounds. Humans, laughter, rather, very early human sounds, grunts, but also lots of laughter. This somehow pleases him. His species are coming back. Ron realizes he is about to build and destroy everything again.
Oh my God, no!
Maybe that suburban insurance salesman's life was not as bad as he thought compared to what he had become. Be happy with what you have and where you are in life. Live for the moment. Well, there you have it. Another happy ending from yours truly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to tend to my lovely mushroom marsala on the stove. I do love my fungi.
Thanks for listening to Hothead Horrors. I release a new tale once a month. Please like and subscribe to keep the horror coming. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.